Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of AllDay Edify, the show, where we're your
Yeah,
hosts, Corey and Natasha Feimster.
yeah, that's right. And of course, our aim is just to inform, uplift, and enlighten you all day, every day.
That's right. And so today's topic, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about why mental health is so important.
Absolutely. Mental health care is extremely valuable, and we have some data that we want to share with you that kind of adds some understanding as to why this is so significant. If you take a look at it, there is a high percentage of adults aged 18 and over who had received medication, medical treatment, as well as receiving counseling or therapy from a mental health professional in the past 12 months. And if you can see here, that number varies in different age groups, 18 to 44. Then there's another age group, 45 to 64. And lastly, our seniors, 65 years and over. There's also data that supports the idea that there is a difference in gender in terms of these services being provided by for individuals that are 18 and older. The difference is that you'll see again people who are receiving mental health treatment, taking medication, as well as receiving counseling or therapy services. And as the indicator shows here with this graph, the number is extremely higher for females compared to male counterparts. All right. And then the other thing that we want to point out to you is that there's a difference with people's background in terms of what their race or nationality is in terms of them receiving these services. As we can see with individuals who are non-Hispanic whites, non-Hispanic whites being a lot higher than their Hispanic and their Black counterparts. And so there's a lot to read in between that. However, it's very obvious that there's a difference between who is actually receiving these services, who is actually taking medication, and then at the same time, who actually needs these services. And so to talk about that a little bit more, we have a guest with us who is a subject matter expert.
That's right. So our guest for today is none other than Jamel Jefferson, who happens to have his own practice. He's a licensed professional counselor. Hey, Jamel, how are you? Thank you
Hey,
for
Jamel,
joining
how you doing?
today.
Hey everybody, I'm doing well. Thank you for inviting me.
Good, good. Good to have you with us. Now, we're talking about this topic and we shared some data that a lot of the indicators are that maybe there are some people who view and understand the significance of having strong mental health care while others don't. Could you expound on that a little bit?
Yes, what your data shows is that there's a disparity between the groups and actually between people who receive mental health services or are seeking them out. The problem is that we find out that a lot of cultural teachings will sway people one way or the other. Um, we're out here with mental health now in this climate, especially with COVID and a lot of things are coming up, that it's becoming even more evident to take care of your mind. One thing is that we see people going to take care of physical health, but there is a problem with that when you just take care of the body and not take care of the mind, because as we know that the mind is the central processing unit of the body. So the mind tells the body what to do, not the other way around. And a lot of what I've come to find out most of the time in this country is that we're big and it's okay to go get physical health. But when you start talking about mental health, it becomes taboo. People get labeled as crazy. I know I tell a lot of people that come see me, there's no such thing as a crazy person in therapy. I like to tell them, I say, hey, the crazy people are the ones sitting around outside talking about they don't have any problems, knowing that they really do. So how can you be crazy when you understand that you have a deficit or an issue and you actually seek out help to rectify that?
Very good. Good point. Now, before we put the cart ahead of the horse, which I've already done, so you have to excuse me, if you could, please, Jamel, tell us a little bit about your background, some of your experience that led to you being in this place that you are today.
That's funny. People ask me, say, how did you become a counselor? Honestly, I was tricked. I tell people that I was tricked because my bachelor's is in financial planning, concentration investments. I went to school with dreams and hope actually to be an accountant. And I ended up watching a movie called Wall Street. And next thing you know, I wanted to be an investment banker. So I was easy to switch. So I did 8 years in the business world. And in 2005, when I accepted my call into the ministry, I was actually going to seminary to get a master's degree in divinity. I had no clue or idea what counseling was or what it looked like. But Unfortunately, since I didn't do some things properly, I had to go to school on probation. And Ashland Theological Seminary was the only school that took me in on probation. And actually, they admitted me to the Christian education program until I proved myself. During my first year there, I realized, took part in a class and where somebody was talking to me about counseling. And I didn't have any clue. But I did remember that it was a word of prophecy that went forth that said I'd be a counselor. Lo and behold, I applied to the counseling program. I got admitted right away, not on probation. So that was the indicator. Then actually one day, second year, first semester of my schooling, I remember one Monday night I was working doing transportation logistics at C.H. Robinson. And I was kind of angry that night in group. And I prayed that night. I said, God, I just want a job to where my gifts and talents can be utilized and I can be who I'm supposed to be. Monday night, Tuesday, I went to work and got fired. So I couldn't get a job for 2 years until I completed my degree. My classes ended in 2010, August 28th. September 1st, I had a job working in child welfare to start the process of where I was going and where I'm ended up today. So it's God ordained. I can't say nothing else about that because this was not even on my radar. So that's what I tell people. So from there, I ended up doing child welfare for a few years. Then I did community mental health where I was working at the Children's Center doing home-based therapy. Then I transitioned from there to Easter Seals where I did substance abuse groups for teens, as well as outpatient in-office therapy. And from there, I branched off into private practice. And then I was able to establish my own private practice after that.
Very good. Very good.
So with that in mind, so that's kind of all encompassing. So with this topic and this lifestyle, why does that mean so much to you? It seems like you've grown a passion for it, considering you switched kind of your majors. So why does this topic and lifestyle, providing this service mean so much to you?
Because one of my passions, one of my heartstrings is helping people to be who they're supposed to be, to achieve healing. And in that avenue, you have to understand what's really going on inside of you, where you're at, even your identity, or just even stressors in life. So it's really important because we're out here in the world struggling with a whole lot of things that we're not able to get assistance with. And a lot of times we don't even know what it is. I can coin it as dysfunctional behaviors. We have these habits, these behaviors that are not meeting the needs of what we're actually trying to get, but it's actually causing us more harm. But we're only doing what we know to do that's best to try to deal with our pain, to deal with our issues. So where is that safe place to where you can go and deal with your stuff without, I said, without the fear of hearing it across the pulpit, without the fear of seeing it on social media, without the fear of hearing it at the family barbecue? That's the therapy process. So there's a safe place where people can come work through their stuff. And then as they gain tools and be able to grow and develop, they can go out and help other people. So that's the process with this. So it's really important to me because I want to see people become healed and become who God has actually called them to be and be the best version of themselves they can be.
Absolutely. Helping people live their best life, right?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. So I'm looking, and I want to go back to a data point where we identify with, based on this research that is made available to us, that women seem to be a little more likely, in fact, significantly more likely to seek out mental health services than men are. What is the stigma with that, or why do we think that is?
That's a wonderful question. It's okay to get help. For women are taught from birth that it's okay to express their emotions and feelings, to talk about things. That's how they get quote unquote labeled as emotional. And I like to teach my men that we're just as emotional as women. But there's this upbringing that us men are taught that one, emotions are a sign of weakness. Crying is a sign of weakness. Anything other than being some tough dude out here working through everything and not showing any emotions and not dealing with any pain is weakness. And that's the part that now we're finding out that we're debunking that myth because we're equipped the same way. We feel the same way. We have a lot of the same issues, but it's okay for one set to deal with it, but it's taboo for the other. So that's why you don't see a lot of men talking about stuff. That's why you see us as angry. That's why you see a whole lot of health issues, because that's all that stuff internalized is causing it to materialize in many different ways, i.e. heart attacks, high blood pressure, stress, strokes, mental illnesses, disease. It's a lot of that because we're just stuffing it all on the inside of it, and there is no release point. And that's where you see the differences, because again, let a lady say, hey, I'm going to get some help. Be like, okay, girl, go ahead. That's so nice. You get a dude out here like, man, what's wrong with you? Are you a punk? You soft. That becomes the stigma.
And I see that a lot too. I see a lot of young guys and I see older guys too. Sometimes they ask for or try to reach out in a general aspect, saying, you know, they would like to receive mental services. But when you present that to them, they're kind of like, you know, not really wanting to engage in that factor. Is there a different approach that should be taken in that manner in terms of trying to get the men to really seek those services to get the help that they need?
Yes, there becomes a conversation that we have to have with people and let them know that it's okay to get help. I love to use the analogy about tutoring. I have a younger daughter who I ended up having to put in tutoring to get some reading comprehension help. I live in the Rochester Hills area, and it was really kind of disheartening. I felt really bad, like I failed my daughter when I had to get her tutoring. I didn't understand the concept because in my mind, tutoring was for dummies. That was the deal. So I'm riding one day and I hear this Cumin commercial, and it's like, no, only smart people come to Cumin, and it really baffled the mess out of me. I was like, smart people go to tutoring? I'm confused. So I asked my wife, I was like, well, who's there? And she talked about the Asians, the other communities. And I was like, hold on, wait a minute. Those are the people we go to as our doctors. They got all the good jobs. Huh? They getting help? What's up with this? So that's when it led me to believe, really research and look at it. It's like, wait a minute. Getting help and getting assistance is not dumb or stupid. It's smart, because you have to use the resources available to you in order to move forward. It's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength to maybe recognize something and then be able to move forward. And that was the moment that I really started understanding, like, wait a minute, there's resources available to us. We just have to utilize them so we can be better. And I think that's the speech. And then what really I see a lot of my practice, because I have an abundance of men that come see me, is that the conversation. Well, my boy told me, man, he came to therapy and it changed his life. So that now becomes the narrative. If we change the narrative and start, I'm gonna use testifying about the goodness of counseling and how it can help you, it shifts people. Because why do you buy a product? It's because somebody has told you, man, you need to check this out. Or you see it somewhere and you like, man, that's awesome. How does that work? And then somebody talks about it. So once you start changing the narrative around, it's okay to get help. It's okay to go to counseling. It's okay to enlist assistance. It's okay to go lay on somebody's couch and talk about your problems. That's when things will begin to shift. Because if it still is taboo or something you got to do in secret, a lot of people will shame away from it.
Gotcha. And you bring up a good point. And again, I want to refer back to the statistical data that we talked about earlier, where we talk about how it is that Hispanics versus non-Hispanic whites and non-Hispanic blacks, according to this, and it's important to point out that this is the National Health Interview Survey, National Health Interview Survey, and they're speaking with and surveying U.S. civilian, non-institutionalized people. So these aren't people that are somewhere institutionalized. These are normal people who are admitting that they have issues, they take medication, and they are seeking out treatment to get better. You talked about the tutoring, and this applies in mental health care as well. Could you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's the same aspect as tutoring, is being able just to look out and get help. But like I said, what's in our culture that we are being taught? Different cultures teach different things. So if it's acceptable in your culture to go get help, then you're more likely to go do it. However, in the Black community, it's shamed upon, it's looked upon. Remember Uncle so-and-so who was in the back room? Yeah, just take his plate, but going back there, you know something wrong with him. That's the problem. Hey, go get some help. I've heard many a times that, hey, well, my mom and them said ain't nothing wrong with me. I don't need no counseling. Counseling is for crazy people. That's the narrative that is being spun in our community that is not being spun in other communities. They are encouraging you to go get help, to go talk to people. Unlike our Caucasian partner, they're encouraged to go to counseling. They go do all the kids. It's like, wait, what's going on? Why are they a little bit better off? Because they're willing to use the resources.
Absolutely.
We struggle.
Absolutely.
Why? Because we don't want to use the resources available to them, because we have made, again, I'm keeping using the word taboo. We have made it taboo for this. We have made it to where we have to suffer in silence. And that's the detriment to us, is that nobody wants to get help to carry our stuff. When we want to carry it all by ourselves, when it's people standing there willing and ready to say, hey, we can help that with you. Well, no talk rules in the house. Well, go on in the house, stay in the house. We don't talk about it. Again, that's where we're hiding all this shame. That's really how the enemy is kicking our butts. It's because we're doing it all by ourselves. But what happens when we list help is that now we're shining lights in areas, and now we got support. So you just can't be kicking my butt by myself. I got my boys with me. So that changes the narrative. So that's the part of this. We got to change that narrative.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I did notice one thing in terms of mental health. It's been on the rise, especially it's been on the rise before COVID. But really, definitely to me, it seems like since COVID has hit, mental health, the need for mental health services has really been on the rise. Now, there's a big topic in regards to how this whole COVID and trying to deal with that. So we'll get into the whole how your services have been impacted. But the first thing is the increase in the services, because when COVID, of course, we're still in this pandemic, a lot of people are losing loved ones. And so they're trying to deal with that, because it's not just one person, maybe a loved one a year or something like that. It's multiple. They're losing them at an increased rate. So how are you dealing with that factor in terms of, have you seen an increase in the services that you're providing in your practice?
As far as the grief and loss, or anxiety or depression related to the COVID, because that's two different areas. Because
so it would be kind of like the anxiety in terms of, no one knows what to do. They don't know if they're going to be next, and how to specifically deal with all of these loved ones, that they're losing at a rapid pace, and trying to support, each other, but then they don't know how to be of a support because they need support. So that's kind of, the anxiety piece and how to actually deal with that.
Right. Well, that's part of that is understanding that you can't help anybody if you can't stand up. So I teach a lot about self-care. So in order to support other people, you have to first take care of yourself. Because I know if I go to lean on somebody and you can't stand up, I got a problem. But that's part of this, and it's just having that open door to be able to talk about these things, and understand what's really going on, and even understanding what can you control and what can't you control. One of the biggest ways that people are really coping with this is with faith. My office is Christian based, but I've worked with people with different faith backgrounds, and you talk about, well, what are you utilizing to help you get through this? Because in the natural, it's tough, but where's your higher power that allows you to sustain? And that for me is God. I know no other way. The peace that surpasses all understanding is what has helped me to deal with a lot of this stuff. I turn to my faith because that's all I know. And people I'm working with the same backgrounds, when they come to me, we talk, hey, how are you leaning on God in the middle of this? Because there's a lot of uncertainty. But the question is that, like I said, we don't know whether we're coming or going. We don't know when our time is going to be. But the question is, are you doing what you can for your life today? And if you really are struggling with the loss of people, it's really showing you in this time that people matter, relationships matter. And have you done the necessary things to keep in touch and connecting? Because it hurts to all of a sudden say you look up and somebody's gone, but yet you have an ought against them, or you got some beef that was never resolved. So
Right.
now it's at this point is that I need to start tightening up some of these relationships. I need to start speaking to people if I ain't spoke to them, or guess what? You know, me and a couple of my friends now, it's big that we tell each other we love us. Man, you know, I love you, dog. I love you. You know, you my mans. We give you your flowers before you leave the earth.
Absolutely.
And that's letting people know how significant they are to you. Even if I don't talk to you every day, let me just let you know you matter to me. And I think that's a part of this is that, you know, this whole piece is fear-based, but God has not given us the spirit of fear.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I need to combat this with something, because the world is going to give you one thing, but what is your defense against that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. I agree. It's very important to have a default system in place, or if you're really being proactive about your mental health, about your spirituality, it's not a default for you. It is your go-to. It is your initial step that you take for sustainment. All right. I noticed something too in the middle of all of this, and in speaking with you today. You happen to have, there's another group that's not included in this statistical, any of these categories, but I know of another group that really needs some therapy. And it's the Detroit Lions fans. I see a Lions helmet there
Hey,
on your
you
show,
see about
man.
3 of them.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, listen, I understand I'm a Lions fan.
Gotcha.
So if you're not a Lions fan, you don't want this smoke today.
Gotcha.
I can talk about my team being bad, but you can't.
Gotcha.
I know what's wrong. I know what we're going through.
we gonna have faith to keep them in prayer.
Hey,
Absolutely.
it's okay. They're gonna
Yeah.
be all right. You know,
Yeah.
in my lifetime, we going to the ship. I believe that.
Gotcha.
You
Gotcha.
know, but it's some stuff I even had to stop doing with them because they were stressing me out.
Come on, talk about that. Because I tell you, I stopped watching them on Sundays, man. I'm a Lions fan too, but I started preserving myself mentally and emotionally by not putting it in front of me on Sundays. There's some things we can do preventive, right?
Yeah, there's preventative steps, but listen, I like football and I'm partial to the Lions. So if I ain't watching the Lions game, it feels really weird. Right. So I understand what I'm about to walk into.
Gotcha.
Right, as long as
this is where it starts.
Gotcha.
I prepared myself because I know what's about to jump off.
Gotcha.
So when it happens, I'm not shocked. I don't go in there with all these hopes and dreams and these false expectations because disappointment is nothing but unmet expectations. Absolutely. So I've learned how to temper my expectations. And now I've said, I just need the Lions to compete. If they show up and compete, I'm happy because first of all, you ain't just gonna come in here and just be punking us and think when your schedule come out, you automatically writing W's and L's. When the Lions say you just put an automatic W behind, no, that ain't cool.
Right,
no,
right.
You gonna come in here and get some of this, and you gonna leave out like my man said, kneecap gonna get bit off or something.
Yeah.
So you ain't just gonna come in here and think this is just an easy win. So I'm happy with that, and I understand the culture, the atmosphere, and what's changing. So I really don't expect them to be good. Next year, I got different expectations because now brand new regime, things are changing. It's a little different. So there's just a little bit of ups and downs. Gotcha. There's some wins we're going to get. There's some losses we probably shouldn't have, but I need to see consistency in how you play and the changing of the culture.
Okay, so one last question before we run out of time. So I know we were talking about COVID and everything like that. So with your services, I know that services have been virtual, telehealth, not in person. And some people are kind of biased against wanting to just be in the office. They don't want to talk to somebody on the phone. They don't want to do virtual. Some people don't even know how to use virtual services. They say, I don't know how to do that, but they want to just be able to have that one-on-one. So how has those services impacted, and what are you guys doing in your practice to kind of, go through that process?
My office has been 100% virtual for these reasons only, because protecting us and protecting other people. I had a few people at first who did not like the virtual, but I had started implementing it before. But once COVID hit and we shut it down, people have been more receptive to it. And it's been easy to take the change. I know there are some folks who still demanding it, but for me, setting healthy boundaries and even protecting my household, I've just decided not to go back until some of this blows off. And it's becoming more effective. And I've actually, a lot of my people are benefiting from it and they're totally happy with it. And Some people are like, well, I ain't coming back. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But then there's others that say, when you open them doors back, I'll be right back in there. So it's just a new dynamic, and it's a temporary. So if you're effective, you're effective. And this is the way I do it, to say we're looking at each other like this. So if I got to sit in the office with a mask on and all that, it already puts a barrier between us. So how can we do this barrier free? So I can see your body, I can see your headshot, I can see your facial, we can do all that. That's a new way to set it up, and everybody stays safe.
And that's
Absolutely.
a good segue for, you mentioned that. Can you tell us, before we let you go, how people can connect with you, and some things that, you want to let our viewers know in terms of your practice and how they can kind of, touch base with you?
I have a website, which is www.envisionchange.cc.com, or you can call the office at 586-251-0408. Well, my lovely office manager will connect you and give you resources and information about our practice. I do have 3 other clinicians in my office, other than just me, and they're just as good as me, or they wouldn't be working for me. So you can guarantee that, you won't get me, because it's different. But everybody has their own unique skill and ability, but we're all good at what we do individually, and we work together as a team. So don't be afraid to reach out for help.
All right. Well, that concludes another interview. I enjoyed that interview, and I look forward to connecting with him and growing even in our, connecting in our relationship based on so many similarities and things we have in common, and being able to connect with the community. Right.
Yes, that was awesome. I mean, the services that he's providing, all of the tools and statistics that we received on today, that was just a lot of good nuggets that we can take in. And so that way, I think that this will be really encouraging for a lot of men, not only just the women, but men too. So I really think that, this is a stepping stone to be able to be a help to the community.
Absolutely. Again, we thank you for joining us as well. Tune in next time, and All Day Edify, the show where our aim is to inform, uplift, and enlighten you
All day, every day.
Do you provide human services? Are you an entrepreneur that contributes to society? Do you have access to tools and resources that facilitate growth and development? Come be a guest on our show. You can email us at alldayedify@gmail.com or send us a message on our Facebook page at AllDay Edify.
From the great city of Flint, Michigan, Sundial Networks presents live at the Golden Lake with the Eclipse Band featuring the Stars of Tomorrow, an amateur night with history in the making, open mic. Watch the TV show every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Search us on Roku under Sundial Networks. Also available on most smart TVs. On the web at www.sundial.tv. That's sundial.tv. No subscription needed. Watch the TV show with the Eclipse Band featuring the Stars of Tomorrow. Only on the Sundial Network. Search us on Roku under Sundial Networks every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. That's sundial.tv. Watch the TV show every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. www.sundial.tv. The TV Talk Show.
The TV Talk Show. The TV Talk Show.
The TV
Talk Show.
Game
Talk
of
Show.
Life.
Game of Life.
Game of Life.
Hosted by the Real OG. The Real OG. You can watch it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 7 p.m. at www.sundial.tv. In the Game of Life, you're going to get knocked out, get knocked down. Ain't nobody going to be there to pick you up. Mama not going to be there to hold your hand all the time. Daddy ain't going to be there to shield you all the time. We done went insane. When you done go insane, you don't even know certain things that you do. Real OG is gonna give it to you raw and in your face, you know what I mean? What's gonna be your what and your why, you know what I'm saying? What is it that's gonna get you motivated? Don't forget my haters, y'all know what it is. Catch up on past episodes on YouTube. Search Sundial Networks TV show Game of Life.
Hi, I'm BJ.
And I'm Noon.
We're
the proud owners of BJ and Noon's Barbecue.
Located at G5034 Clyde Road, Flint, Michigan. We serve
lamb chops, we serve ribs, we serve rib tips, we serve fish, we serve chicken, we serve dressing, macaroni and cheese, all of your soul food.
Carry out, dine in. You can even call at 810-820-7369. We will always appreciate your business.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of AllDay Edify. I'm Natasha, and this is my handsome, loving, and supportive husband, Corey, and we're your hosts.
Wow, thanks, babe. I appreciate the kind words. It is great to have you all with us today for another episode. We have a great show for you today. And if you were with us in our last episode, you know that we talked about a number of different things, but we talked about how important it is for men and women, mostly in the minority communities, to have a good understanding of their mental health and how valuable that is.
Absolutely. And so today we're going to go just a step further in discussing something else that we tapped into in the last segment, which is communication. Our guest talked about how some people are sometimes more eager to express the areas they need help in than others.
All right, babe, come on, make it plain. He talked specifically, especially about how women, credit women, that they are more willing to raise their hand and say, hey, I need some help, and I'm going to go get the help that I need. And men are not as willing to do that and as open in expressing that.
Okay, so yes, he did. So he did talk about how it benefits us as minorities or simply people who realize they have room to improve and take a page from our male and female counterparts in other cultures.
Absolutely. And we talked about how there are just so many stigmas out there that are associated with us enlisting the kind of support services that we need sometimes. It doesn't matter if it's, like with women saying, hey, me a spa day. I need to go relax and get a massage or something, or I need tutoring, or I need to go get me a physical trainer, a personal trainer or something like that. There's so many stigmas that sometimes we fail to say that, hey, I'm okay, but I want to get better. I don't want to just be okay. I want to be excellent. So who do I need to go see to help me to get there?
Absolutely. And this approach to improving ourselves can apply to all aspects of our lives. Like you said, whether it's tutoring, seeking a mental health therapist, getting financial guidance, whatever.
Right. And so today our topic is, and it's in the form of a question. It's a good question. Are women better communicators? And we're going to talk about that.
Wow. Are women better communicators? So this, I can already see right now that this is going to be an interesting conversation.
Yes, it is.
So if you noticed today, when we opened up our segment, I was very complimentary of you, and that is not me being manipulative or anything like that. It is more directed toward me being able to seize the opportunity to improve our relationship one day at a time. And that's beginning with this moment. That's me expressing the value and appreciation I have for you. I can honestly say it hasn't always been that way. I mean, we've been going on 18 years of marriage, and it's it hasn't always been like that. But one thing that I do know that, I read this book before, and to me, I think it's a must read. And it's called The Five Languages of Love by Gary Chapman. And so this book actually teaches you how to express love in your spouse's language. And some of the languages here are words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, physical touch. But not only does Gary have this book, he also have, love languages for children, singles, men, women. So, but this specific book is to me a must read because, like I said, we talked about words of affirmation, which is the first one. And so my thing is, sometimes people think that, somebody should already know how you feel about them without you having to say that. But words of affirmation specifically is any spoken or written words that confirm, support, uplift, and empathize with another person in a positive manner. So that's kind of how, with the opening, it's kind of like words of affirmation. That's an example of words of affirmation.
Absolutely, babe. And you're right. We both had to learn some things along the way to help us to be better at making sure that we are working on improving our personal selves, but also enhancing our relationship and cultivating one another's growth. And so that's always important. And so we want to apply this approach not only in our personal relationship in regards to marriage, like you say, there are some ways to improve our relationships with our children. The same thing goes for our siblings or even our colleagues and our subordinates when we lead people. And so there are always opportunities. We look for ways to improve ourselves when we're seeking after career advancements and different things like that. And so the love languages apply in different ways, and work is another example of that. There's always opportunities to be aggressive and say, hey, I want this promotion, or I want to be able to afford this house or this car that I really value. But what about the relationships and the messages that we send in strengthening those relationships? Because that's what it's about. It's not about having a relationship that still exists. It's about strengthening that relationship to ensure that it still exists and it's being effective.
Yes, babe. So this absolutely applies to relationship building. We know what we want, and sometimes it really takes being intentional and strategic, not manipulative. Both men
Mm-hmm.
and women, we pick up on when people are being manipulative, and we know, but
Yeah.
strategic and intentional to position ourselves to capitalize on opportunities.
Yeah, I love that word choice that you have there. You use the word strategic and intentional, and that is different because you compare it to the word manipulative. Why is it that you compare strategic and intentional to the word manipulative?
So here's I'll just put it like in a practical terms.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll use kids for an example. So many of us have kids, and not all kids, but some have an approach to where they're loving and complimentary, and they do things outside of their character. And our first response is, okay, what do you want? Right. And so we know that they're up to something, and we know that they're being slick, because any other time we can't get them to do things or be loving or proactive until they want something. That's being manipulative.
Got you. So when we're met with this approach, our instinct is to assume that there is some kind of manipulation that's taking place. You're trying to run game on me, right? That is our instinct.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. It's hard not to think that way. Once you develop a pattern that says,
Mm.
this is who this person is, or this is what I should expect when I encounter this behavior or character type.
Absolutely. I agree, babe. And I'll be the first to admit, there's a lot of times that because I'm always, so intentional and observing my surroundings and my interactions with people and improving over it, over time, I have a tendency to observe people and to begin to develop a thought process that filters into how much of this that is being communicated truly is within my best interest. Sometimes when we interact with people, we'll look at and think and believe that either this person is really trying to mutually communicate things that benefit both me and them, or they're being self-serving, or they're being self-centered in the way that they're approaching this. So I like to put, little indicators out there because I want to cut to the chase to find out sometimes. Giving people the benefit of the doubt, you present indicators to give people a chance to either get off on the off ramp and say, no, this is not the road that I'm trying to take our communication or our relationship down, or they'll stay on that road. And that's always an indicator that deep down, maybe you don't care as much about my own best interest, because you want to make sure that whatever your self-serving agenda is met.
Wow. So babe, so in the communication process, we have three vital criteria. So we have the message, we have the sender, and then we have the receiver. And so
Mm,
the message is the key component to all of this. Basically,
mm,
the message is the star of the show, not the
gotcha.
sender and not the receiver, but who?
The message. You're right, babe. The
Absolutely. And
message.
so many people don't understand that when you're a sender, your top priority should be the message.
I agree, babe. I agree wholeheartedly. And I want to say even the same would apply to the receiver. You know, the same applies to receiver is that nothing is greater than you have to sometimes suppress your thinking that somebody is being self-centered and things like that. You have to be mature enough to suppress that and say, okay, you know, we say it all the time, chew the meat and throw away the bones. You know what I mean? Because you want to receive the message. And there's this great misconception that because we have so many different deficiencies in our lives, that prevent us from being able to have that level of maturity in our personal lives, our spiritual deficiencies and shortcoming, our psychological, emotional, mental, like we talked about last week. These deficiencies prevent us from being mature enough to do exactly that. Chew the meat, throw away the bones, because whether I'm the sender or the receiver, the message is what is the primary focus of that communication.
Absolutely. And, like we said, and as a result, whether you're on the job, in our homes, in our families, out in the community, or whatever, we tend to see ourselves as greater than the roles we play as messengers who are able to unite, inform, uplift, and enlighten the people we come in contact with.
Absolutely, babe. Wow. And that's so powerful, but it's so true. It's so true that, we have difficulty seeing ourselves because of our deficiencies. Like I said, sometimes we have trouble seeing ourselves and our role in the communication process as being about anything other than the message. And so, but as we are having this discussion, it's important that, and I can't help but consider how much of an impact this has on the perception of both genders, male and female. Because again, this topic is about, we're asking ourselves the question, are women better or greater communicators?
I agree. And I believe that the discussion we had in our previous episode also points out the reasoning.
Yep, yep. And so in that, again, if you missed it, we are elaborating on how it is that we want to learn different things from different cultures. And we see it now more than ever here in Western culture, here in America, that women are being entrusted with greater degrees of responsibility, being relied on as leaders, as spokespeople for large organizations and different things. And so that's because women are being entrusted to be able to effectively uplift, enlighten, and unite people, both peers and their subordinates, so that everybody is working as a part of a one team environment. And so it's a lot easier to trust people when their communication says that this is what they embody. And so I think there's some room for everybody of all character types to be able to improve. In fact, if we look at it, women are being trusted with even greater responsibilities now, to where, like, we have a female vice president.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we're not that far removed from having elected, not once but twice, a male who is of African heritage, who is being entrusted with the highest office in the country, commander in chief. So why is it, babe, that these different character types are being entrusted with greater levels of leadership and responsibility?
Well, I believe this points more to their character types than their gender or their race. And so here's the thing that I think it takes a lot for people to buy into your message and to look beyond their perceptions and their personal filters to focus
Mm-hmm.
their attention on your message. However, it is the character type that these two leaders possess that enables them to be attentive enough to the receivers of their message and pay attention to their audience and win them over with the way they convey their message. And so
Yeah.
here's something that I want to kind of hit you with and just, kind of, I want you to take it in before,
Okay.
you get to talking about it. So I ran across this article from 2013 and I'm just going to read it. And so this article basically says, it talks about because the topic of the show is Are Women Better Communicators? And so this actual article from 2013 says, Are women better communicators than men? And so basically, I'll just read a little bit here. It says several studies in the last 30 years or so have consistently indicated that women are better communicators than men.
Hmm.
Some of these suggest that women use many more words than men, in some cases, using anywhere from 10,000 to 20,000 words a day to a man's 5,000 to 10,000. They also suggest that women's capacity to listen with empathy is superior to men's on average, with females being more prone to wait and let a man finish their sentences, not interrupt so often in general, and better paraphrase and summarize what has been said as appropriate. And so this article really, it goes into detail and it says a lot, but I wanted to point that out. And so a couple things. Number one, this is actually an article from 2013. And then on top of that, the article, inside the article, it said studies shown in the last 30 years about
Oh,
how
right.
it's been consistently indicated that women are better communicators. So I just kind of wanted to get some feedback from you in regard to this article.
Wow. What stands out to me the most is, like when you initially told me about that, is that a 30-year study, that's a lot of time. And so
Yes.
that there's a lot of room for developing, like we say, patterns. Our kids give us patterns. Our kids haven't even been there that long, but a lot of times it's pretty accurate because we know them well based on the pattern and the repetition. And so the things that stand out to me about that, aside from such a long period of time, is a couple things that you said. The difference between, say, for instance, 5,000 words versus 10 or 20,000 words. I'm not going to go there with talking about how that's a lot more talking than a man does. All I'm saying is just that the other parts of that give some enhancement to what takes place in those additional words. You said the capacity to listen, but also more prone to wait. And so this sends out the message to me that a person is patiently waiting, listening, paying attention, and then responding with, here's what you said, a better summary, doing a better job of summarizing what needs to be conveyed in regurgitating the message, or what needs to then, okay, I'm taking it all in, everybody's speaking. Now I'm listening, and it's from a leader's perspective. Now I'm listening, and I got something to say that should be effectively conveyed and impactful when I say what I need to say after listening, not interrupting, after taking it all in. And so I think there's, again, a lot for people who lack this particular character type of being able to pay attention, listen, take it all in, not interrupt, and then be able to convey effectively what needs to be said to impact the people around you, to uplift the people around you, to enlighten the people around you. And so I think that says a lot about how women can really, just by demonstrating all those characteristics in that study, have an impact and help men that they have relationships with, men that they work with or are colleagues with, be able to improve, and other women who don't have those character types. Because I believe it's really about character type.
And so, that brings me to question, now that we're talking about it too, is, when we talked about communication being in the workplace, I know that sometimes, let's kind of discuss this a little bit. being an effective communicator. If we're on our job and we're getting a lot of feedback, in regards to being an effective communicator, like, oh my gosh, you're such a good effective communicator and you're so easy to talk to and this, that, or the other. But at home, it doesn't reflect you being an effective communicator, whether it's with your spouse or your children or anything like that. I mean, what do you think about that in terms of, okay, so what's the problem? I mean, everybody else is telling me that I'm effective and I know how to communicate, but
Right.
here at home, you guys are telling me, or you're telling me that I'm not effective. Not to say that some people aren't overall effective communicators, but there are some instances where you are more effective in one setting than another. What do you think about that?
Wow, that's a good question, because I think that there's a lot of factors that go into play there. Like we talked about earlier, it could be a number of different things, but I'll use this as an example. You might be on the job chasing the carrot. You're on the job and somebody's dangling the carrot of a promotion or an advancement opportunity in front of you. Just because you want to make sure that you got job security, you're on top of everything. You know who the people are that you need to please on the job. And therefore, it could be that you are paying that much attention and you were responding in a way because you prioritize that job security or that advancement opportunity above the way that you feel like you're obligated to or required to treat the people at home or that you have personal, not professional relationships with. But then again, the flip side of that is that maybe the people on the job who you have so much in common with because you are passionate about what you do on the job, you might have educated yourself and spent years driving towards being able to function in that role. And here you are among a bunch of people who have the same things in common, and y'all got a lot more to talk about. And maybe at home, they're not appreciating you the way that they should. Maybe at home, there's not as much common things to communicate about. So it could be a number of different factors, I think, that plays a role in that.
Absolutely. And I know that you have a couple of other examples about, helping people feel good about losing.
Yes. And that's always important, babe. That's always been my quote is that, man, you help people feel good about losing. In times when you leave people to their own devices, they could do something that may not come across the right way to you. And that could be in our personal relationships too. I know in the early stages of our lives, our marriage together, and, we were both working professionals and, going to school and things. And sometimes as we were growing and getting to know each other, we'd have differences. But we've always made it a point to exercise the biblical principle of not letting the sun go down on our wrath. So we agree that, look, we ain't going to go to bed mad at each other. But one of us, and me particularly, I might feel some kind of way about something that I'm going to apply some wisdom and not drag it out, beat a dead horse with trying to communicate that thing. But I have to be strategic. And so helping somebody feel good about losing might mean that I'm going to prepare you a nice meal the next day or the day after so that we can get to the point to where now we can sit down with fresh thoughts and say, here, babe, I did not like or agree with this. I just didn't want to continue to harp on it, but I think it needs some attention. And so when we effectively communicate that way and make sure that now there's an understanding and a mutual respect. And if we could, babe, there's a slide here that shows us different ways about how to go about the communication process. There's a difference in the verbal and nonverbal communication. Verbal communication is you're talking about things like a person's voice inflection or their tone. Sometimes, you and I are talking sometimes and I get passionate. We tend to get heated or something like that. Not disrespectful. It's just that I believe in what I'm saying and I'm raising my voice, or you may believe in what you're saying and we have to say to each other, why are you raising your voice at me? You know what I mean? And that's our cue to one another to like, okay, I am getting a little bit hyped. Let me tone it down a little bit, but I want you to understand what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And so that's just some examples, and like clarity and concision, that matters, being concise with your words. But on the nonverbal side, you see things like listening and active listening. active listening being that you're paying attention, you're listening, and you're sending a message to the person on the receiving end as you are the sender, that you're giving them head nods and you're giving them an intent look that says that, yeah, I understand what you're saying. I feel you. I see where you're coming from. Your body language could be that you're slumping or your shoulders are down, or you just feel like, you know what, you're dragging this out too much, or here we go again, right? But the facial expression that's one of yours. Go ahead and tell us about that.
So I know we talk about face expressions often, you and I, because I know that, a lot of times when you're out speaking in public, a lot of times you get that frown on your face because, I know, that you're just very passionate and in tune to what you're expressing and what the topic is because you're so passionate about it. But I'm sitting in the audience and I always have to smile just so that that that's my cue for you, because you need to kind of lighten up on how you're expressing yourself, because a lot of people may not know you and know that you're the way that you're expressing yourself and the look on your face, you got that crease in your forehead and stuff like that. They don't know, but I'm still friendly. You know what I mean? It's kind of could sometimes be intimidating. And so I do that smile to show you that, hey, you need to kind of lighten up, still be passionate about what you're doing. But right now you're frowning and it might not be as edifying, if, you're frowning or got the, the line in your forehead.
Right. See, she started off complimenting me. Now she beating me up a little bit. But no, you're right. And that's always helpful for me. It's helpful for me that I can be really engaged in what I'm saying, and I'm feeling, and I look and see my wife smiling, and that's my cue that my nonverbal is preventing me from being effective in connecting with that particular audience. And so we have to have that in mind, that when we are in those roles, it's important that we are not only just communicating, but that we are being effective in our communication. It's important to be effective. And so, Yep. And so that kind of brings us to a point to where, again, we always enjoy these conversations. We enjoy talking to each other, but we also enjoy kind of being able to share some of our thought processes with other people, because we're just normal people who done lived life and bumped our heads a little bit or learned some things along the way. And we like to be able to edify and encourage other people.
And so, we're kind of running out on time here. We can kind of talk for a long time, but, we need to wrap it up on today. And we actually want to thank you for joining us, for this show. And so here at AllDay Edify, our aim is to uplift, inform, and enlighten you.
All day, every day.
Do you provide human services? Are you an entrepreneur that contributes to society? Do you have access to tools and resources that facilitate growth and development? Come be a guest on our show. You can email us at alldayedify@gmail.com or send us a message on our Facebook page at AllDay Edify.
A new way to watch TV on the web and on Roku, the High Dimension Network. Check us out on the web at www.highghd.tv. That's highghd.tv on the web. And search us under High Dimension Networks on Roku. Yes, we're on the web and Roku, and we're bringing music, news, fashion, culture, and lifestyle. The lineup, that's my jam. Top 10 from the streets, and we know sports. New to the game, legends in music, and so much more. It's about time. Something new in TV. Brand new flavor on the web and on Roku. High Dimension Network. Check us out on the web at www.highghd.tv. That's highghd.tv on the web. And search us under High Dimension Networks on Roku. Yes, we're on the web and Roku. High Dimension Networks. That's highghd.tv. A new TV channel, Sundial Networks, showcasing urban culture, music, lifestyle, fashion, talk shows, comedy, movies, and more. TV lineups, slow jams, game of life, Sundial Soul, live from the Smokehouse, The Battle, New versus Old, 60s and 70s Time Machine, all that jazz. And on Sundays, special programming with religious roots, gospel soul, R&B classic gospel, You can find us on the web and on most smart TVs at www.sundial.tv. That's sundial.tv. And on Roku. Yes, Roku. Free. No subscription needed. Search for us under Sundial Networks. That's SUNDIAL Networks. Sundial Networks. Web TV Media is looking for marketing and salespeople, experience or no experience. All are welcome. We're also looking for people to help with 2 brand new TV networks. We are looking for marketing and salespeople as well to work in a safe and friendly atmosphere. Please send email to webtvmedia1@gmail.com.